You were listening to episode 194 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and I am Boogerman in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
I just need to get that on a pure recording of just you saying, I am Boogerman. And I'll just put that on like a little thing for us as like, you know, like disc jockeys. Just I am Boogerman at random.
I've never connected so hard nasally with a character.
Yeah, I told Ryan before, instead of saying I am Boogerman, he should have just sneezed into a cloth and we would have been good.
Exactly. We didn't think you could handle it. My booger powers can shatter the ears of lesser mortals.
Well, if you didn't know what we're playing this week and you didn't listen last week, you should go listen to last week first. And then now that you're back on the episode, you should know that we're playing Boogerman on the Sega Genesis. So it's part of a group of pickups I had in the last few weeks. We talked about it last week. So go back and listen regarding a Sega Genesis episodes. If you didn't go into that episode deep enough, you should go back and hear what we talked about. But yeah, so Boogerman was part of that collection, and I actually picked up 2 copies during the multiple pickups, which was interesting.
One for each nose.
That's exactly what it is. I got to keep both now. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. We'll talk about it in our inflation deflation segment at the end. But first, you can find this podcast on the podcast app you're listening to now. You can also interact with us on social media at the Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook, and at Game Deflators on Twitter. You can also find us on our out-of-date website, thegamedeflators.com, and leave a 5-star review. We like those. Yeah. But first, recent pickups. But second recent pickups, because I have it but first already. So I had a pretty interesting week.
Always an interesting week. You've been on fire lately.
Yeah, I don't know why, dude. It's been crazy. So there's been a couple collections I passed up, too, just because from a value perspective, it just wasn't worth it to me. Like, if I wanted to make some money back off of it, you know, it didn't have enough.
It's just not worth buying a lot to resell the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, if I wanted 1 or 2 games out of it, like, do I want to have to buy everything? And then it's usually like, oh, well, you know, you can have this game, but it's going to be like $30. I'm like, why am I going to buy it for $30 and it's worth $40, right? Like, I guess if I really wanted to play it that badly, I would buy that one individual game if that's what I was looking for. But I'm just kind of looking for...
If only there was somebody else out there doing inflation deflations for games that you haven't bought.
Yeah, that'd be kind of nice, right? Is it worth it? Yeah, I mean, I go in it from a quantity perspective sometimes. Like, when I want quality, I will spend my hard-earned money to look for quality games that I have been wanting for some time, right? But if I'm looking for quantity and just for us to be able to play things on the podcast...
I don't think we need you to.
No.
I think we're set.
Yeah, you're like, we got 40-something more Sega Genesis games to play now.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun stuff, like, just to have more variety, because I do have a lot of RPGs in my collection. So when, like, we're looking at PS2, for example, our pickings are a little slimmer than, say, on the Sega Genesis or the Super Nintendo, because I got more platformers and things on those consoles. So I do like to, you know, kind of find things for the podcast, find things for myself, obviously, and just give us a little more variety at times. And Boogerman was one that we didn't have under our arsenal of games to play, and now we do. So that said, though, with my pickups this week, I got Riddick on the Xbox. There's 2 versions. I don't remember which one it is. I don't want to open the bag while we're recording. Rock Band 3 on the Wii. I've got Undead Nightmare, so the Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare thing. That's actually a pretty cool one. So I actually have a copy of that, but it didn't have the manual. This one happened to have it.
Oh.
Duke Nukem Forever, Transformers Dark of the Moon, Fable, so the first one on the Xbox, because I didn't have it. Super Monkey Ball, Step and Roll. And then I got the Wii Classic controller as well as a PlayStation Move wand. So all of that was like $40 for all of it.
Nice.
It wasn't too bad. Currently playing, I am still playing Elden Ring. God, where am I at in that game? I went up to the snow level up top, or snow area, and I went to some like abandoned castle and was having a tough time playing against the boss there. He summons like two mists, basically, 2 summons. And you have to go against those guys and him, right? And I'm like, man, I'm having a little trouble here. Like, I could beat the 2 guys and go pretty far against them. Like, you know what? I'm just going to summon people. I don't want to worry about this. So I summoned in 2 people, one of which was apparently there's a build going around right now in Elden Ring where you carry 2 of the giant axes or 2 of the giant hammers, and you like overload all your stats into like just one area.
Oh,
so
is
you can,
it
like,
just the one-hit KO hammer
it was
guy?
one of those people. Yeah.
Okay,
No.
I've seen that. In like a Google feed or something.
So they weren't fully like, loaded up, right? Like it wasn't a one-hit KO, but like
Pretty close.
I go into the battle and I'm not even looking at the life bar for the boss. I'm just kind of keeping my eye on where he's at. I'm handling the one enemy in front of me, knock it out. I notice the other one goes down, and then I look down at the bar, and it's got maybe like an eighth of a bar left, and this guy's like with 2 hammers just wailing, just laughing so hard as it's going down. And my wife is next to me. She's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, the boss has been beat. This other guy just pretty much soloed it." And it was kind of disappointing because I'm like, I wish the battle would have been a little bit longer. But at the same time, there's just so much humor involved in that. I was like, okay, like I'm cool with this.
Yeah.
But I got the 2. I think it's the Haligtree. I think it's Haligtree or Haligtree emblems. I got those 2 pieces. So now I can go to the next area where I think it's Melania. I think is her name. The hardest boss in like all of the Souls games apparently. So I'm gonna go against her. Apparently she wreaks havoc against spellcasters, but she's relatively decently hard for like melee characters. So we'll see. I'm going to try and solo her, to be honest. I want to try soloing that boss and then see how far I can get. If it's one of those where it's like damn near impossible, then I'll start summoning people in because apparently...
Do you have the Mimic tier yet?
I do.
Do you use it?
Yeah, I use it, but I also have the Black Tithe Bandit or whatever it is, and that specific summon has like a crap ton of HP. It's basically a tank. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's just a tank for taking damage for you. So yeah, I'm going to try and beat her on my own, see how that goes. If I cannot, which I've heard it's so difficult to do even with 3 people, then I'll start summoning in 3 people. Maybe I'll come across the guy that is named Let Me. Yeah, the naked man called Let Me Solo Her.
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell he does that, like naked. I have to watch the videos of Let Me Solo Her.
Get good.
I guess, dude. Like naked man with 2 daggers, whatever it is. That's got to be hilarious.
I think they sent him a sword.
Did they really?
Yeah, I think FromSoft like sent him a sword for like getting his like 3,000th Millennia Killer.
That's insane,
something like that.
dude. Well,
Another
guess,
Google feed thing that I saw. Who knows if it's true? I don't click on them.
I don't know. It's like those, those legendary stories out there, right? It's just like a fable to tell all of your children one day to let me solo her guy on Elden Ring. So yeah, that's what I'm playing right now. We haven't started our next game, my wife and I. It's supposed to be, let's see, we beat Kana recently. She's playing some Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We haven't really picked up our newest game, but I think it's her choice, and I think we're going to be playing the new Yoshi game on the Switch, the one that we played with Barry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's where we're at with that.
Nice.
Yeah, what did you get?
I got the play date finally.
Dude, it's been like a year, 2 years.
It's been a year since I ordered it, basically, and I can't tell you how awesome it is. It feels so great. It works so well.
That's what she said.
The design of it is so like it's perfect. It's got like just so much style and aesthetic to it. The boot up screen, like you saw the little intro like video thing.
Yeah.
Like the games so far are pretty good. It starts out with 24 games, so it's a 12-week schedule of 2 games a week. So week 1 was Whitewater Wipeout, which is a surfing game where you start off at the top of a wave, you use the crank to control the direction of the nose of the board, and you basically have to like surf up and down the wave, jump the wave, do 360s, get air, keep ahead of the wave, and try to build up your score.
And it never ends, right? It just keeps going.
No, there is an end. So eventually the like wave like starts descending and it gets like narrower and narrower the space you have until I think it eventually fades out. And I almost made it to like the end of the wave a couple times. The like super high scores I think are in like the 20 million points or the 2 million points or something. And then my highest is like 33,000 right now.
Okay.
So it'll be just one of those games that's something quick to flip out and just kind of go through. The next game that launched was Casual Birder, which is a little kind of RPG. It looks very much like Earthbound, kind of. It's like stylistic, but in a real world, and you're going around and you just take out your camera phone and you've got to take pictures of birds. You use the crank to adjust the focus on your lens. And there are like birds that are like moving around, so you have to like try to time it or try to track them. It's cute. It's fun. The dialogue is a little, I don't know, it's a little out there, but I really like the character designs in it. And then I went on to itch.io. They have a ton of games on there so far. I did pick up A Joke That's Worth 99 Cents, which is incredible, and it's everything that the trailer made it out to be. And the trailer song basically just plays. You turn the game on, and that plays, and then you start to play the game, and if you die, it just continues to play the trailer song.
It's so ridiculous and annoying.
Yeah.
I got to like line 5 or 6, I think, on my try.
I think I've gotten to like 10 lines in, so like I don't want to spoil it.
All I know is that there's 3 guys in a bar and they talk to a fairy and they say something to the fairy, and then that's it. It starts over with the joke that's worth 99 cents.
Yeah, I know about the second guy. I'll say that much. Okay. I know a little bit about the second guy, and that's as far as I've gotten, which is probably not very far at all.
I might just Google it. Like, what is a joke that's worth 99 cents? It's going to be the worst joke that I've ever heard.
And then I got Sketch Solve Share, which is just an anagram puzzle game, because I like anagram puzzles. My first one I got was Picross for the Switch, and I played that for like a long time.
Nice.
So I'm having a ton of fun with that. I can't wait to see what games are coming out. I've already seen like the full list of games before. So, we'll see. I haven't really looked and paid attention to the order that they're coming out in. Inspired by John a couple weeks ago, I did download the One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, the One Piece Muso game that's on Game Pass right now, because I am in the thick of reading One Piece again. I am on Whole Cake Island.
I have not been continuing with One Piece as of late because I've been obviously busy.
It's a lot.
Yeah, well, and my mom's in town, so I've been busy with, hanging out and whatnot. But I will continue One Piece. I'm trying to remember where I was last time. Oh, I just got past the arc with, Redbeard something? I forget his name, but he's the peg leg guy that's a chef.
Oh, Don Barate.
Is that what his name is? I don't know.
Well,
I thought they called him Red something.
Or Barate's the floating restaurant.
Yeah.
With Sanji?
Yeah, exactly. So they just got Sanji, and then
Don Krieg is the bad guy there. With the armor, the golden armor guy.
Yeah, and then Zoro battled, what's his name, that took out all of his ships.
Oh, and he has Mihawk.
Yeah, and he's got So he just disappeared and said, you need to get better and everything, but I look forward to the fight, blah, blah, and he went off. Like, that's where I stopped.
Yeah.
So, pretty good stopping point, I think, from where I was. They're about to start the next leg of that. Good. Of the whole thing, so...
And then I didn't pick it up, but honestly, dude, I've been talking for a couple weeks about picking up a Quest 2, and they're going to go up $100 on August 1st. Isn't that bizarre?
What is a Quest 2?
The VR, the Oculus Quest 2 or
Oculus
the Meta Quest 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to jump up $100. By the time you guys are listening, it'll already be too late. But I may go try to find one this weekend. I'm not sure.
GameStop's already got it at $3.99. And then apparently GameStop has it for both $3.99 and $2.99.
There's like
the 256 gigabyte.
Yeah, it depends on the size.
Yeah, I see that now.
Interesting. Yeah, so that's interesting. I don't remember the last time that I heard about like a product that had been on the market for years. At this point, it feels like the Quest 2's been out, and they're gonna jump it up. Like, that's so bizarre to me, but I guess that's what's happening.
Yeah, I'm just going to wait for the VR too.
And then most of the game that I've been playing this week is Power Wash Simulator still.
Oh my God, still?
Oh my God. The things I have washed, John. I did a Ferris wheel. I did like a drilling machine that would like core drill you to the center of the earth. I did... I'm in the middle of doing a tunnel, like a subway platform right now. I did the Mars rover.
While you're interested, I need to power wash my front, sidewalk area.
Oh man,
and clean
so
and power wash
satisfying.
I've got a power wash in a, you can do like, instead of the simulator, like actual power wash, and I'll let you do it for free.
Dude, I'll let you get on Duo and do that, and then I'll do Power Wash Simulator, and it would be like co-op.
Well, no, it seems, I mean, like, if
They
I want
do have co-op for
I want the
Power
power
Wash
wash
Simulator.
simulator. So what I'll do is I'll hold the controller that's not connected to a wire, and you can power wash my whole house, and I'll just control
And it'll
it
be
on the
like you're
control-
simulating.
It'll be like a simulator. It'd be great, and you don't have to pay me anything for it. I mean, like, I know you paid for this game, or at least you're paying for Xbox Live, where you get this game and whatnot. So yeah, just, you don't have to pay me anything. I'll do it for free. You can power wash my house. It'll be great.
Dude, it's so good. It's the best game of the year.
Over Kana and Elden Ring.
Oh hell yeah.
Oh my god.
Let's see. That's pretty much what I've been doing this week. So that means it's time for John's new favorite segment, The Secret Game.
my
John,
God.
do you have a question for
Okay.
The Secret Game?
Let's see. So I've asked if it was a Nintendo handheld console or Nintendo console, and you said yes,
Yes.
on that. So, let me think. Is it on the Nintendo Switch?
Yes.
Okay. Which sucks, because that could be both handheld or non-handheld. But if you would have said no, then I could have automatically assumed it was on one of your on your like Game Boy or anything like that. To which point I would have just gone to your house randomly one of these days and then found like your GBA and just like loaded it up.
And just chosen the right emulator.
Well, I could have just gone through and yeah, you're right. That's a lot. Yeah, I don't know how many games are on there. Yes. Okay, it's on the Switch. I don't know what you have on the Switch, but I think I know what I'll be asking next week.
Okay.
Don't I get a choice to, or
You
get
can
an
do a
option
guess.
a guess as to what game it is, right?
Yeah.
But you have to say yes or no if I get it
Yeah.
right. Okay, it's on the Switch. Dark Souls.
No.
Okay. All right. All right.
John,
Well,
only Dark Souls Remastered is on the Switch.
oh my God, you're killing me. You're really gonna go that level?
No.
Okay. Like that'd be pretty screwed up. Okay. Why is it? Oh, because you're on there too, aren't you? You're putting
Yeah.
in a guess. I was like, what is that black dot on my screen just floating around?
All right. Moving on.
All right. So this week, we're going to be talking about a few interesting pieces of news that came out. The first one is Sony is reportedly interested in Square Enix Japan, but not their Western studios. So we'll dive into that in a moment. That is Rebecca Smith at, what is that, PlayStation Style? What is it?
Lifestyle.
PlayStation Lifestyle. I got to increase the size on this. Next thing we'll talk about is, and I'm doing this, Ryan, because I don't want to have to remember after each article to say who it is. So Sony starts testing 1440p support for the PS5. That's Tom Warren at The Verge. I only know that one as The Verge because, well, Tom Warren seems to be the only person that covers games. Next one is Elden Ring smashes into the top 10 selling best games in U.S. history. That, though, has an update, which will be on the next article here that we're going to talk about. But that one is Catherine Lewis at Gaming Bible. And then Elden Ring, of course, being one of the top 10 best-selling games ever in the U.S., has been updated. And that is by, is it Logan Moore at comicbook.com? Is what I see
Yeah.
here? Cool. So that's what we're going to cover today. Let's go with the first one. That being Sony reportedly interested in Square Enix Japan, but not the Western studios. What? What? You're just like shaking your head and looking at me? How quickly you went through those, Ryan?
Well, this is just, I don't know. I've been anticipating this forever. Like, whenever anybody says, like, purchase or merger or anything like that, studio acquisition.
This is the one you think of.
This is the one that's always jumped to my mind. Like, I don't understand why Sony wouldn't have tried to buy out Square Enix, like, forever ago.
Well, so that's why it talks about when, recently they sold their Montreal studio. They sold, I guess, several Western studios, specifically Square Enix doing this. And people are wondering, like, why the hell are they selling this off? Like, it makes zero sense for them to
And
sell
for
this.
cheap.
And for cheap, yeah. And they're thinking, well, this might be part of being purchased by Sony. And if Sony doesn't want those Western studios, well, let's sell it, get money from it, and then Sony will purchase us.
Make it look more slim of a purchase. Hey,
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about doing all this offloading of people after the merger. We'll take care of it right now. We'll give you exactly the IP that you really want.
Which is Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and plus
Yeah.
having that money in their coffers makes them like they've already got money. They just sold a bunch of stuff, so they're purchasing a company that has money.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little more appealing of a transaction. So I like this move as Sony does it. I think if Sony takes Square Enix, that is a huge game changer for the industry, because what you're doing is, I mean, no other Final Fantasy can't be anywhere else. It's only on Sony at that point, or PC. So
that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that wall. Like,
that's true.
I think that there's I looked online to double check. Final Fantasy 16 already not slated for anything but PlayStation 5.
Same with the Final Fantasy 7 remake.
Yeah, so that's already like, and the Final Fantasy 7 remake 1 is still not even slated for anything else. So like, I think that maybe they already kind of started going in that direction. But on the other hand, like, Xbox specifically was like, we're not going to take Call of Duty off the table.
But Elder Scrolls, I think, is off the table.
That's all that, and Fallout, all that stuff, Starfield, none of that's going to be the multiplayer.
This would be the perfect move for Sony to be like, all right, cool. You want to take Elder Scrolls? Well, guess what? No more Kingdom Hearts.
Western RPGs. We will be the Eastern RPGs.
Yeah. We're going to get Kingdom Hearts. We're going to get Final Fantasy. Good luck getting any of those moving forward. Although I do question Kingdom Hearts a little bit, because Disney does have a huge stake in that. So similar to like MLB The Show, for example, how that's now on Xbox properties. I could see something like Kingdom Hearts continuing to go on there because, well, you know, the Disney machine being the biggest part of that. But dude, I like this move. I think that if they are to acquire Square Enix is not going to get acquired by Microsoft.
No,
they're not. It's a Japanese-based company, and they are not going to move forward with a sale to an American-based company.
That would never happen. But, no. I mean, I think that the biggest loss that could come from this is just the wealth of Square stuff that's been coming out on, like, the Switch. Like, all of these, like, 2.5D games and remakes, like Live Alive just came out, and Diofield Chronicle and stuff like that's going to be coming out. Like, there's some games out there that people want to be able to play portably. Sony's not fighting in that market, and until they get some kind of like real backing behind cloud streaming on mobile devices with their system, then, and that's even a more narrow band. Like, the Switch has such a big install, I just don't see them turning off that tap. But if they're going to turn off the tap to Microsoft, like, is that different? Like, they're competing with Nintendo, or them putting things on Nintendo to sell, versus them competing with Microsoft or putting things on Microsoft to sell. Like, I feel like they're more apt to keep that relationship with Nintendo because it serves a whole nother market that they don't want to serve right now.
Well, but they kind of do. Is we didn't put it on this article or on this list of things to talk about this week, but the new peripheral was just launched. I sent that to you the other day for mobile phones.
Oh, the Backbone one, yeah.
Yeah, Sony specific peripheral. I think it's only for, Apple devices as of right now. But you know, when you consider that they're releasing these peripherals specifically for phones, a lot of these games that are on the Switch could very easily be on the phone.
And turn-based games are going to perform the best via cloud.
Yeah,
because you don't need like reaction timing and stuff like that. Like, it's very casual and easy to play, and you're not worried about like a little bit of an input delay.
Yes, I mean, could we see a specific peripheral be the launching pad for games coming off of the Switch and then being more on a mobile basis, or does Sony kind of look at this and say, well, they're performing pretty well in terms of sales on the Nintendo Switch. We don't want to go into that. We don't really care if those games aren't going to be on the PlayStation, or maybe they are going to be on PlayStation down the road, but we could still take some of that revenue coming from those sales.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I do think they'll cut off Microsoft unless they're able to work out a deal where games like Elder Scrolls and Fallout are allowed on PlayStation, and then in turn, Final Fantasy games could be allowed on Xbox.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, it's also a whole different audience. Like, people on Switch are going to be more likely to play Bravely Default 3 than if you put out Bravely Default 3 as the first, cutesy JRPG to be released on Sony, ideally for playing cloud on your phone. Like, that's such a different amount of people that would choose to buy and play that, especially with the inability to go back probably and redo the other two. So, interesting stuff. There's a lot that comes from this. And, I mean, this is still just a rumor. Like, we don't have confirmation that this has happened. But my God, if it does and when it does, what will be next? Like, what's going to be the next biggest thing? Because this is like the biggest thing that I can imagine right now. Like,
I think Ubisoft would be the next big one after that.
God,
in terms of
who would
IPs
buy
and
Ubisoft?
I don't know, stupid people.
Netflix,
Microsoft. Okay, so the next thing we have here is Sony starts testing 1440p support for the PS5. I like this. I think that this is a great move, given that they recently have launched their monitors as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this makes a ton of sense to then have the PS5 support that 1440p, because you've got that, the peripherals that they're selling for PC gamers, plus you've got the support that'll come from the PS5. So now it's like, great, I can play all of my, PS5 games on this new monitor. I've got 1440p support, plus I've got PC games I want to play on there as well. So I think it's a great move for them. I'm pretty excited about this, actually. I got to check if my TV supports 1440p. I think it does. It is a few years old, but I'm pretty sure 1440p was around for a little bit back then as well. This is supposed to work, or I guess really kind of help with a number of different things. I think they said anti-aliasing was one of the things that it helps support on here. It should help with frame rates, I believe. There's just a ton of good stuff that'll come from this. One thing to note is that this is in beta testing right now, and your TV will have, you'll have the option to set your PlayStation and games to go into 1440p if it's compatible for you when this is launched down the road. But if your TV doesn't support it, it'll automatically go to the next best resolution, which would be the 4K, I believe, if you're using a 4K, of course.
Yeah,
and if you're not using a 4K of a PS5, I question everything.
Yeah. They also talk about their implementing folders.
Yeah.
So now you can make folders of games.
That's true. So the implementation, the way they have it set up is, I think you have up to 15 folders with
100 games each.
100 games each, and it can actually split it up based on these games are 1440p support, these are 4K, these are however many frames per second 4K, these are
surround sound.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes it a little easier as you're
organize
going
your games in all kinds of goofy ways.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty interesting how that's going to work out. I do question if you would, I think it works with the PlayStation library specifically. I don't know that it works with games that you've downloaded. I think those games are entered in the library. I've never really checked, because they usually will delete games over time if I don't play them anymore. But yeah, good news. So keep an eye out for that, and hopefully your TV supports that, or your monitor.
Yeah, I don't know how many people do it, but my Xbox is set up next to my desk. I play my Xbox primarily on my monitor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like a 1440p monitor or anything good, but, if there's other people out there that are sitting at their desk where they're playing games, hey, cool.
I mean, my monitors are 1440p. Maybe I should throw it on here and see how it looks.
There you go.
All right.
Next up, we got kind of a double thing.
Yeah.
So we had one article that we were looking at earlier this week, and then an amendment came out, not on that article specifically, but another person who wrote an article earlier in the week updated theirs. So we'll cover kind of both.
Yeah, we don't need to go into deep detail. We already kind of covered who wrote these. But so initially it was talking about how Elden Ring had smashed into the top 10 best-selling U.S. games in history. And so, which was pretty cool if you consider the game's been out for 5-6 months.
Yeah.
So we were like, holy crap, that's insane that it's been selling that well, and it's still at the top of the charts for a number of sales. And I guess the amendment came out that said it in fact wasn't on the top 10. It hadn't cracked it yet, because there's a number of things such as games that had not been measured by NPD over the years past. Which is kind of weird when you think,
that would be an asterisk in front of every report ever then.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you think about movie sales, and are like, oh, domestic sales for X movie, Gone with the Wind, due to inflation, is still the greatest selling movie of all time. It's but if you consider how many people went to see that film and you broke it down, there are far more significantly more theaters out there nowadays that movies like Avatar and Star Wars and all that would technically have been better sales overall.
I think 80% of people saw that movie, where it's nowadays to get 80% of people to go see one thing, it's impossible.
I propose you and I direct Gone with the Wind 2.
No, that would never work, John.
All right, go
God
on.
with a Wind 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Oh my god. All right, go into your piece here. You had some comments.
Yeah, so I tried to do some back-end research here. In the initial article that we were looking at, they mentioned that Elden Ring sold 13.4 million copies in just over a month. But that would be worldwide sales. This is talking specifically NPD for North American top 10 sales. So I tried to do some research online because I couldn't find just like NPD, top 10 games of all time. What were their sales numbers? And then try to look up and compare. So I found a couple other sites out there. There was a venture beat from Jeff Grubb in 2020 that had Call of Duty Black Ops 3 as number 9 on its sales chart. And let's see here. That was around 11.8 million sales in October 2016. So, I mean, there's been lots of Call of Duties that have come out since then, so that game kind of has like a shelf life for how long it's really going to sell. Whereas Elden Ring is going to be like an evergreen game. Like on that 2020 article list, like Minecraft was underneath, but Minecraft has had like some big expansions in the last 2 years. Like people are always going to keep buying Minecraft in the future. It will eventually become probably more selling than any of the Call of Duties over time.
Well, maybe even Tetris.
Yeah. So, like, there's a good chance that Elden Ring, like, if it sold 13 million copies worldwide in its first month, and we're 6 months down the road, I mean, it only has to break, like, 12 million in the U.S. to probably get into that top 10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be doable. Like, the worldwide for that Call of Duty was 25 million. So Elden Ring was already half that in its first month. I would wager that this article was just written a little too early, but eventually will be fully accurate.
Yeah, I can see that. And, Elden Ring in general, though, I mean, just kind of talk back on that.
We don't even have DLC yet.
Yeah, we don't have any DLC
That'll blow it up huge, too.
If they do a Game of the Year edition down the road, that'll help boost up sales for it as well. My thing, though, and I'll just do a quick little small review here in what I've played of Elden Ring. I like the gameplay of Elden Ring. I'm having a lot of fun with that. I'm having a lot of fun interacting with people. I'm liking the boss battles. But the story, dude, the story is just like, you got to talk to every single... Like, it's worse than Dark Souls, in my opinion, because Dark Souls is a little more linear. This is so widespread that you have to talk to everybody and anybody you see to get any sort of idea on the story and what's happening. And it's not like... It doesn't pull me in from a story perspective right now. I'm hoping that as I progress through some of the additional bosses, that it kind of solidifies things a bit for me. But as of right now, that's the one thing that's been lackluster for me.
Dude, I'm just one of those people. Every time I've played like one of these games, I have no idea what the story is. I'm just running through, slaying.
Well, that's why I like Sekiro so much, because Sekiro had all of the difficulty that you could want. Like, it is, in my opinion, the perfect Souls game. It's got the difficulty that you anticipate. It has the boosts and such that you would get, like, as your character, like different abilities and such you can do. The gameplay's phenomenal. Visually, it's great. And then on top of that, the story is like perfect the way it lines up. Like, everything that's going on. From start to finish, the different characters you interact with. Like, it's a great game.
It's just a lot more in your face.
Yeah, and I like that. Versus,
I think Bloodborne's the best.
Bloodborne is good.
But its setting is what makes it the best.
Yeah, exactly. Story-wise in a lot of these games, it's hard to kind of comprehend sometimes. And there are people out there that have, like, YouTube channels dedicated to lore on, like, Dark Souls. Like, that's how deep it is.
Fatih Vidya?
Yeah.
Fatih Vidya's stuff is great. I actually just watched... This morning, he put out a video that's like 25 new secrets, and there was some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, it's crazy. So there's people that's all they do is play Dark Souls, and that's why they're so good when it comes down to it. All right, diving into our inflation deflation of the week, we play Boogerman, a pick flick adventure. This is developed by Interplay Productions, published by Interplay Productions, designed by Christopher Trammell and Michael, is that Strachey?
Strachey? I don't know.
Yeah,
it looked like Strategy.
Strategy, yeah, that's what I thought at first. November of 1994 is when it was released. It is a platformer with a reception of 7 to 8 in general.
Yeah.
So we played this on the Retron 5, where we play a lot of our retro games nowadays. The main reason being is it upscales the quality, it gets rid of a lot of the lines, and it acts as a very clean look for the retro console games.
You know what I don't like about it?
The control?
Yeah.
Well, we can put OEM.
Well, it's not that the handle, like, I like the feeling of the controller. The feeling of it is great.
For me,
I
it's
hate
the
that
joystick.
the buttons aren't labeled.
The buttons not being labeled sucks.
Like, it's got a plus and a minus and 4 arrows, and it's like, that's not what it is. There's like, I'm pretty sure it's ABC and 1, 2, 3 or something. Or is it ABC, XYZ?
I think it's ABC, XYZ, but
who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But with the with that controller, the thing that bugs me the most with the standard, like, out of a box controller is the joystick. It's so finicky. Like, if you're pressing down, if you just hit it a little left, it's down left.
I mean, it feels like a kid's toy too.
Yeah. So, but you can use original hardware or controls on there, and it does feel good when you play with those. But you always have to have the other one plugged in because you have to control the main screen. So that kind of sucks, and that also kind of scares me because if that breaks at any point, like, there goes my retro console, right? Like,
you probably just buy a replacement controller.
Maybe. I don't know. It just depends. Like, maybe that, and down the road, like, maybe that's one of the things that's super expensive. Like, the console itself is great, but, you know, can you access the main menu and go to home screen and do all these other things without that, you know, original control? And I could see that being one of those things down the road where it's like, oh, you want a replacement control? $200 for just control. But yeah,
maybe you should look at buying a backup one now then, just to keep it in box.
Maybe, or just don't use that control as often. Just use original hardware and make sure that is used specifically just to access the screen and get the game started and mess with menu settings.
That seems silly.
Yeah, it does, but, like, at the same time, would you rather have played that?
It's for a convenience. Like, if something happened to the Retron, you just throw it in your regular Sega.
Yeah.
If you really want to play the game, like, I think the Retron's there as a convenience thing, like, not as, like, something that needs to be necessarily babied, because it's pretty cheaply made.
Yeah, but I really do like the quality of games that come out of it. Like,
yeah, this game looked great.
Yeah, it looked fantastic in the Retron. So if you don't have a Retron 5, definitely look at picking one up. They're still relatively cheap, like $150, I think, for a Retron 5, or maybe $200, and they're totally worth it. You can play GBA games on there. NES, SNES.
Wait, GBA?
Yeah, you can play GBA on it.
It has a port for GBA?
It has a port for GBA. My wife was playing a new Spyro game on there. She got sick of playing in handheld mode and threw it into the Retron 5. Gosh. And then played it with, I think, an SNES control or something.
Wow.
So
bizarre.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So overall, this game, I felt graphically it was great. I felt that it controlled really well. I love the interactions with this character. So just the constant, like, I'm Boogerman every time he's talking, or not every time he's talking, but when you indicate that you want to mention that. The booger meter at the top left, where you can
UI.
Yeah, flinging boogers. Yes, the UI was a lot of fun.
Like, your booger meter was like, it had a nose and then a finger with, like, a big long booger slime, and it would get shorter every time you flung boogers. Mm-hmm. You had, like, a belch meter on the right, where he had, like, this big belch cloud, and as you used it, the cloud got smaller.
Well, and then on top of that, there were certain things that you could pick up to launch fireballs for your burps instead. Every single time you kill an enemy, a fart noise happens, which is great. So this, for me, was just like slapstick humor of a game, along with the fact that it's a decent platformer. I mean,
it looked like an FX cartoon.
Actually, it did.
It looked like an FX cartoon. Like, this would be on, like, right after Life with Louie.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, I think, the overall gameplay. The enemies didn't seem too hard. There's a variety of different enemies throughout the game. We got through a few levels, and then we kind of put in one of the passcodes and get to one of the final levels to interact with that. And it all feels the same. You know, it feels pretty smooth for a platformer. And, you know, it's not like a Donkey Kong or a Mario, but it's, you know, a Sega platformer that's pretty fun overall.
I did read a thing comparing it kind of to like Aladdin.
It did feel like
saying that it's
mentioned.
kind of like a different, styled version, almost like a different take on that game in a way.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever played the Genesis version of Aladdin. I played the SNES version.
I forget which one it is, but I think is it the Genesis version that's the superior version of Aladdin?
One has like better music and one has like, I think, better level
graphics.
design.
Yeah.
Because I think one has like the carpet ride scene and the other one doesn't. I think it's the Genesis one.
Yeah.
Has like more to it.
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time since I messed with Aladdin.
Yeah.
On console. Maybe
I
we
like
should
that game a lot.
play that one down the road.
We should, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, overall with this game, as I said, I felt pretty good about it. I do think it is in that 7 to 8 range when you think platformers and put in the comparison against other titles that are out there. But it was fun. And price wise, if you look at complete in box, what is that, $49.64, Ryan?
Yeah, so $49.64 complete in box. That peaked at $55.23 back in March of 2022. That's currently trending down a little bit. Loose copy will run you $24.99. That peaked at $34 back in June of 21. That's also trending down. The most expensive version money can buy is a complete in-box Super Nintendo version for $217.97.
Why?
And the cheapest version is that loose Sega Genesis version. Yeah,
Dude, that's insane. Like, the clamshell's so much better than the cardboard box.
I guess there's less cardboard boxes in the world.
I guess.
Boogerman.
What does a loose copy on the SNES go for?
Oh, let me look it up. I wasn't prepared for you to ask me that. Why would you ask me that?
Because why wouldn't I ask you that? I always ask you questions when you're not prepared, so that way it makes up for all of the typos.
Super Nintendo loose 7033.
Why? Is it better? Like, was there anything that indicated that it was a better version? I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, is that it's a far superior version, and that's why you would play it. But it felt good on the Genesis. Are you looking it up right now?
Slightly better box art.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have it on the Super Nintendo as well. I might not. But that just seems abnormally high. 3 times the price for potentially better graphics or better gameplay, and not by much. I mean, we've played a number of games that were released on both consoles, and oftentimes the differences in like what the game can offer is not significant enough, I feel, to be 3 times the cost. So,
well, it's coming up with results like 10 best Super Nintendo games bracket that are better on Sega Genesis. So maybe the Genesis version is superior and they just made more copies of it?
Maybe. Well, if tell us why. Add us on Twitter or Facebook or something, and tell us why the Super Nintendo version is so much more. And we'll look at that information on our side, I guess. That's crazy, man. I wish we kind of
maybe more people just are actively buying it for Super Nintendo. Like, maybe there's not many people collecting
Genesis, maybe.
Genesis, I don't know.
No idea. Well, yeah, I mean, Nintendo games in general do go for a little bit more. I mean, we see that with a number of titles that are on both, even if it's like very minimal differences within the games. It's just because that Nintendo power that's on there. And I guess just for whatever reason, people just kind of gravitate towards those games versus their cheaper counterparts on the Genesis, which kind of sucks sometimes because there's a lot of great games on the Genesis.
Yeah.
A lot that aren't on Super Nintendo, and then even some that are superior than Super Nintendo, as we know.
And then all those dang buttons.
But dude, like, yeah, that's true. But the clamshell boxes alone for me are like a huge difference maker. When I decide between, do I keep a Super Nintendo game complete in box, or do I keep a Sega Genesis game complete in box, I generally want to go for the Sega Genesis because I just like the look and feel of that box better than dealing with paper.
Yeah. It's going to keep.
Yeah. Now, I will say Super Nintendo games look fantastic, as complete in box. I absolutely love complete in box Super Nintendo games. I got a few, but I don't go actively collecting them.
It's a lot more to worry about in the long run, and then you're splitting up like, okay, what's on the shelf, what's on the box shelf.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like complete in-box games, unless you're like a solid collector of complete in-box, like there's maybe 2 or 3 games out there. Like, I would love a complete in-box, Paper Mario for N64. But honestly, that's stupid. I should just go on Etsy and buy like a reproduction paper box for probably like $10 that'll look brand new and clean and be nice on my shelf, and I never have to pay, you know, a couple $100 or whatever it would cost me to get that.
Well, and with Genesis, it's for me, it's easier to make reproduction covers. Yeah, so like I have a reproduction Gunstar Heroes cover that I printed out.
That Sparkster one looked really good.
Dude, yeah, the Sparkster one looks solid. Like, I would much rather just go to Cover Project and print out my own covers and fit it and put it on some nice paper than go out trying to find a pristine, you know. And there's also like secondary clamshell boxes you can buy out there too.
Yeah,
they're like $5 a piece. Like, I would much rather spend my money in all of that process and get to about $6 worth of everything versus like $70 for a near mint
just
copy.
one game.
Yeah, so dumb. So I mean, and not to say anything against people that collect it, cool, and kudos if you collect it, but like, I just don't see the value in that. All right, well, dude, fun episode. I don't know what we're gonna play next week. We never know what we're gonna play the following week. We'll take a look at the collection and get back to you all at the beginning of next week's episode 195. But all of that said, this has been episode 194 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.